Hello everyone and welcome back to the Metro Monthly Update video. This is the monthly update video for a little bit of May and June. We kind of consolidated because we kind of ran out of time to do the other video when we said we are going to do that last little 2 weeks in a new video. So we just put it all in one video. Anyhow, I am the chairman and CEO, Derek Boyd, and this is...
I'm the president and secretary, Vladimir Stokalov. So we're going to get into it because honestly, we've been doing so much construction. I'm a little too tired to really be doing these videos right now. But we got to keep them on track so that way we can obviously still have the timeline of what's going on with everything that we're doing. So let's go on ahead and let's get into it. So first things first, as you guys remember in the last video, we were talking about the deal with 234 Camellia Street, aka known as the SAD deal. Well, everything went through. We went on ahead and closed on it. To give you guys the full wrap down of that deal, basically what we ended up doing is that we paid for the closing costs on our end. Actually, we paid for all the closing costs, his end and our end. We sat there and we gave him $6,000 in cash up front because of the fact that, well, we were able to save more money because of SC Stay program that he had signed up for. The only BS with the closing fees, our total closing fees were like $3 grand. The problem with it is that apparently the POA, which is like the HOA in that area, they're ludicrous. Transfer fee is $1,500, which is just insane to me. So basically, they cost as much, if not more, than the attorney to sit there and actually do that. Now, what we ended up doing is that once we finished that all up, we gave the guy a month to go on ahead and move everything out. So just so you guys understand, we've now assumed the mortgage, while it's still remaining in his name, we've assumed it. And we're going to be paying on it and everything else. That we transferred the property over to a trust to protect ourselves. And we're waiting for him to move out, which he should be doing here in the next couple of weeks. And then we can start actually renovating and doing everything else like that. So that's pretty much 234 Camellia Street wrapped up. So we acquired a new property. We just still have not seen the full extent of the property because he's not moved out.
Yep.
Anything you want to add to that one?
No, pretty much like you just said. We'll actually give you the update picture before we do anything with it. As soon as we get in there, we'll take some pictures of the condition and that we're buying it in after he's already moved out and all his leftover furniture and stuff.
If we remember.
Yeah. So that way you guys get an idea of what we physically were buying into. So then when we do the renovations and whatnot, you'll understand why we bought it at the price we bought it at, and then how much we're going to get into it afterwards. So you see why it was a good investment.
So in the last month, we also talked about how we were looking to potentially hire a new employee. I don't know how much we went into it, but now that we finalized everything with it, I'm going to go into detail on what the agreement was. So the tenant that was the former tenant we had at 124, we noticed his work and he had a lot of potential to grow. And obviously, it seemed like he was very interested in learning. So we went ahead and we offered him a very, very generous employment contract that kind of goes something on the lines of this. So if you remember, he was owner financing 124. Well, we bought it back from him for $2,500, which was basically a buyback and a sign-on bonus. We agreed to pay him $10 an hour while he's in training, so he can learn all the basics of what he needs to do, such as cosmetic work, painting, flooring, a little bit of roofing, plumbing, basic electrical framing. Very basic things. We listed it all out in the agreement, exactly what he has to be proficient in. And then once he's proficient in all those, we were going to increase his pay to $15 an hour. We are also providing him free housing at 124 because it still wasn't a livable state because it didn't have the electric on. It still had plumbing issues and whatnot. So Derek and I dumped in the money to finish out the renovations and get the house livable for him so he could move in. And we only require him right now to work part-time with us, which is 8 hours a week is what our agreement specifies, with the intent to bump him up to 32 hours a week once we're ready to take somebody on full-time and we can fully afford it. So far, working with him, he's very eager to learn. He's very aggressive to work. He works. He really works hard. Problem is, he doesn't necessarily know everything that he's doing, and he's slow on the learning process as far as when we teach him the nuances.
He's also in that rush mentality because he's in that situation where, every job, probably most people that watch this, where whenever your boss is nearby, they always tell you to make yourself look busy. So you're just doing stuff. even though it's not necessarily beneficial stuff or even really good or like useful stuff. You could be doing something detrimental, like just sweeping stuff out of your like in your way. And so he's always like in that rush mentality of either whatever he's doing he needs to do fast, or just do stuff for the sake of doing stuff. And that's not how we work. We do things very efficiently. So we just, whatever we're doing, we focus on it. However long it takes, it's however long it takes, but we get it done, we get it done right. And so there's been some times here and there where it's been a bit of a learning curve, I guess is maybe the issue, where he's in rush, or just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff. And then he winds up causing a problem, we'll say a few hours or maybe a couple days down the road when we get back to doing something around that area. So like, for example, rushing to do some framing but not cutting back the subfloor, and then we got to put in like the actual wall that goes in there, like sheetrock or something, or even like the outside OSB. There's a section of wood that's protruding that he didn't cut back because he was just in a rush to get stuff done, or missing nails and screws that are hanging out and that are causing problems, that are pushing boards in and out, causing twisting, just things like that. So he was really heavy in the rush mentality, and we keep telling him to like basically slow down, think through what you're doing, understand what you're doing, do it right the first time, because like he'll make off cuts or he'll miss something, and it's just, the learning curve is still there. He's definitely getting better, but like Vlad was saying, it's a little slow of a process, mostly because he kind of came into this really blind to a lot of stuff, and we figured that out now, obviously, which is fine because we expected it to be a training period. But main thing is that we're hoping that here, as he's working with us, because as Vlad mentioned, he was only supposed to be working originally about 8 hours a week at minimum. We've been working him about a consistent 15 hours or so about 2 to 3 days sometimes. And so we've gotten a little bit more experience with him quicker. So we're hoping that if we can afford it and continue to move and scale with that, we can train him up quicker so it still kind of meets our timeline. But overall, it's been a decent experience. It hasn't really been a problem in any way. It's just been a little bit slow on our projections. But overall, what's your opinion, as you were saying?
What I was going to say on that is that obviously we're training our replacement, so we don't want to be doing this contracting stuff unless it's very specific, like finesse stuff, or if Derek and I are just bored and we want to do it. The thing that we're running into right now is that we don't think he's going to meet the replacement goal that we originally had for both of us in the time frame that we have. But he is an excellent employee. Like, the thing, regardless of it, maybe he doesn't know what he's doing, you tell him to do something, he doesn't lie and pretend that he knows what he's doing, like the former contractor we had, which drove me insane. But at the same time, he will do exactly to the T what you told him to do, with very little deviation. And in contracting work, there's a lot of deviation almost every aspect of it, so you're gonna have to like work around things and like think things through and so on and so forth. However, out of all the contractors we've had and everything, even in the state that we're at right now, where he's basically just a helper to us, like trying to like get up to scale, he's been pretty phenomenal. Now Derek and I, with so 234 Camellia Street, we've dubbed it as Golf Course House, as like an AKA name. So again, this is the mortgage that we just assumed over. So I'm going to refer to it as Golf Course House from here on out, because that's how him and I internally talk about it. Golf Course House is one of the projects we did not want to bring him on at first, because that's going to be high materials, high cosmetics, like very high end stuff. So the material costs are going to be higher for mess ups, and the cosmetics need to be near perfect. No construction job is perfect. That's impossible. But you can make it near perfect. And he's not at that level for it yet. But what Derek and I have been discussing back and forth is potentially just bringing him on to basically watch and learn how Derek and I do things, so he can see it firsthand. I'm still not sure if we're going to go through with that, but we think that might be a good learning experience, because otherwise, he's not in default of his agreement. We just don't have anything for him to do. He's training with us. We're teaching ourselves, like we're teaching him to be our replacement. And so we are teaching him how to do things by our standard and what we want. So that's the only kind of thing with it. But overall, much happier experience, even in the current state, because I'd rather have somebody that's competent working with me than have somebody that's incompetent working on their own so I can sit at home.
Exactly.
Because that leads me to have to go back out there and do it anyway.
Right.
So, 13 Hamlet. So if you guys remember, we were really talking about there's no way in hell I'm getting $1,000 for this unit at a 0 security deposit like I was originally planning. That is 100% false. We had people beating down our door trying to get into that unit at $1,000 a month. Literally, we had a plethora of potential candidates. Now, unfortunately, because we always go with first come, first serve, like whoever we believe is going to be the best qualified and the best paying, we picked the bad tenant. They paid $1,000 up front, then they didn't pay. Then we found drug paraphernalia in the house after we had given them a notice that we were coming by to check on the roof after all this rain that we've been having here. And we've already filed an eviction, finalized the eviction, and then finally now they're reaching out to pay. Now, I've seen this song and dance before. I don't know if they're serious about paying. In fact, they're actually supposed to be paying today. The thing is, though, is that with them paying today, we've already finished out the eviction because they dodged the service of the eviction, which is the dumbest thing you can do. So they couldn't even request a hearing or try to like work things out or negotiate. So we already got granted our eviction that we wanted. Well, so we offered them like, look, don't pay any of the late fees. Don't pay the eviction fee. Just pay us like your base amount and we'll sit there and we'll let you stay for at least 30 days, but then you gotta go. And we're finalizing the eviction one way or another. But if you don't pay, we're doing it immediately. So what would you like to do at this point? Because the drug paraphernalia, I'm sorry. Again, Hamlet is lipstick on a pig. I can't afford for issues in that property. And what really annoyed us too, they already punched one hole in the wall, and they also already messed up the damn bathroom door. And their saying was like, oh yeah, it was from us moving a recliner over there, which made no sense because that entire back room area is still unutilized by them. They're only utilizing like the living room, the bedroom right across when you first walk in, and the kitchen.
Yeah, the bathroom door is on the opposite side of the house where the recliner is, and the recliner is right in the door that you come in, but then somehow the bathroom door is way the hell down there.
It's clearly a bunch of lying. It's clearly drug paraphernalia that we found. Like, it's very obvious what the situation is. I can't necessarily comment on what I believe it is because it's speculation and that's unfair and I don't have any hard proof, but I got like 90% of the facts and I've dealt with this before. I've seen this before. I'm not taking the risk. They gotta go. So yeah, with that, we're gonna get it back up and running. Hopefully with the minimum damage is already sustained, we can just do some quick repair and then go on from there. But we'll get that unit back re-rented. But we were able to get it rented for $1,000, so we know we can potentially hit that mile mark again, which is what we want to try to do.
We still have some leftover people who we have as a backup or when they were reaching out originally. And since this is so short term, the likelihood that they may have found a place isn't as high as, say, like maybe if we waited like 6 months or a year, right? Because somebody, if they're looking for a place in May, and then now it's July, they may still be looking. But if they were looking for a place in May, but now it's December, they probably found a place by now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much where we're at now with that. So that kind of covers up some of the other things, giving you guys some more details about our employees and everything else like that. Let's go on ahead and let's speed run some events until we get to one particular one. So number one, our water bill this month was $2,400, which infuriates me to no end because Derek and I, as you guys know, we're down at the park again, redoing more water lines, redoing this stuff. And now this has kind of caused a huge like back and forth between Derek and I, because I'm saying we just need to fix it. But the problem is to get these professional like leak detector guys out here, they're going to cost us $1,300 is what we're estimating. It's $800 for the first hour and a half. And then it's $250 for each subsequent hour after that. And we're asking them to literally find all of our water lines. They're going to use these like ultrasonic, like parabolic headsets and stuff like that. The problem is with that plan is that those units that they're using, the amount that they're charging us is literally what those units cost. So they cost about $1,300. So if we pay them $1,300 to find the leak, and then we have to fix it, by the way. They find the leak, we fix it, and then like they jet off, and then there's another issue down the road, we have to bring it back out. Yeah, they'll only charge us $250 an hour every subsequential visit that they have to do, but it's the fact that we're still paying it. Now that's still better than obviously if we pay them $1,300, we do find the leaks like we expected to be in the main line and we fix it. Obviously the savings over the course of every 2 months will more than make up for it. Or we could buy the parabolic headphones ourselves, figure out how to use the technology in the machine to find the broken water lines and then fix it ourselves. But now we forever have that piece of equipment. But then there's the other thing that Derek and I have already been talking about. We were just talking about buying a trencher, shutting off everybody's water, literally trenching a whole new brand new line. Which if you don't know what a trencher is, think of like a riding lawnmower. It has a little like is it a backhoe or like a scraper in the front?
It's like a little wedge that just dig the...
Think of like your Tonka trucks that have like the thing that comes in front. Yeah, it has that permanently affixed to it so you can bury it. And it basically has a chainsaw on the back and you just literally run it. You run the line exactly how you want. It'll dig it out about 18 inches or so, which is what you need. And then you just lay a brand new pipe and then obviously trench out as you need to each other individual unit. So that's the thing. It's like that's the other thing him and I have talked about, because we rather know where the lines are because we're planning to keep the park. If we weren't planning to keep the park, absolutely not. A quick repair, I'll sell it off. It has no leaks, no issues. We've already fixed everything. It's your problem now. But since we're planning to keep the park, it actually makes some more sense for us to know where the lines are and trench them out, and then just pretty much have them constantly marked for our reference.
Plus, it'll be new pipes, so it shouldn't bust anytime soon. Versus if we get the plumber or we get the machine to do find the leaks. Every time we patch one, just like with every other plumbing job, now you have new pressure building up because now it's a full line again, and then it might bust somewhere else. And then we're going to be constantly running out there instead of dealing with underneath houses. Now we got to constantly deal with the line in the yard.
Yep.
And so it's one of those things where, do you want to just do a bunch of band-aid fixes and pay a bunch of money for band-aid fixes, or do you want to just go ahead and commit to doing a full replacement and dealing with the headache of that?
Or do you just, or obviously sitting there just eating the fees every single 2 months until you can commit to one or the other, which that's not benefiting anyone. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Him and I haven't made a decision. We've still been very back and forth on it and trying to figure out what to do and what makes the most sense and how to kind of go about it. Now, with that being said, we're moving on to the next piece of news. So I don't know how much we talked about 134. I'll just give a brief synopsis. They basically tried to have us arrested because they had lied to us saying that their son wasn't living at 136 and they hadn't seen him. Well, we started trying to renovate 136 because we had just hired 124 to be our employee. And that was it's funny, that was his first day on the job. So his first day on the job was us almost getting arrested because as we had called animal control out to deal with the dogs and like the dead snake and like a scorpion that was in the house, they weren't sure how to go about it. And as they were still there, they pulled in and they were trying to threaten and they were trying to tell the cops to press charges on us for breaking and entering because we knew that he was there and we didn't give notice, we didn't do anything, and we started just ripping things out and so on and so forth. Obviously nothing happened with that, but it really did annoy me that they even attempted that, considering the fact that this is the same people that lied to us saying they hadn't seen him, and here he comes on a moped with the mother on the back and acting like they've been there the entire time and everything else like that. So that already irritated us. We tried to reach out to them a couple times afterwards because they were already behind multiple months. They literally ghosted us. There was one night I literally saw them. I saw them open the door. I told Derek. Derek went over there, knocked on the door multiple times. They would not answer. I was like, I'm done. Like, dude, they're playing us. Get them out. And so we filed the eviction. They requested a hearing for the eviction. We showed up for the hearing yesterday? No, 2 days ago. Yeah, we showed up for the hearing 2 days ago. They didn't show up. So we got our writ of ejectment. Now we're going to finalize. Sorry about that. Now we're going to finalize the eviction. And then we're going to sit there and obviously get all their stuff out and go from there. So 134 is going to be officially evicted. We're finishing that out. Our only concern is that they might potentially squat at 136, even though we've capped the water, like the roof is still leaking. We just have a tarp and the electric isn't even ready to be run. But whatever, we'll sit there and we'll deal with that as it comes up to being an issue. Speaking of electric, So we had to pay to get the electric fixed over at 124 because, as I mentioned before, part of our deal is that we're going to be providing our employee housing. And with that deal, 124 was the house we were going to provide. That was the house he was working on. We're going to finish it. We're going to get it all up. So to get the electric up, we had to get the deck on. We had to put on skirting, which we just put solar board and stuff like that. Just something, basically something hard has to be covering the entire unit. It apparently doesn't matter what it is per se. So we just use solar board because it's more water resilient due to the aluminum foil on it. And it was cheaper than actually buying mobile home skirting or masonrying it all in. Plus, it'd be dumb to masonry it because we're still dealing with like some of the water issues and trying to fix all that as well. Well, we got both of those done pretty cheap. I'd definitely say sub $1,000 for a full deck being built on the back, and for the solar boards and the plumbing that we did, all sub $1,000. Good, we're making great progress. We thought we would be able to get a new electric pole because they required us to get I think it was a 12-foot above ground pole.
Feet.
So yeah, the pole's 16 feet. 4 of it is buried.
No, 6 is buried. It's 22 feet total.
Oh, okay. So 6 of it is buried, and then 12 is sticking up.
16's up. It's 22, guys. 16 plus 6 is 22, man.
What do you want from me? Anyway, I didn't do it.
This is why I did it.
Yeah, so I didn't do it. Anyway, so at first we were being quoted reasonable pricing, saying like, yeah, we can get the pole up, we can get the box on, we can get everything connected, about 2,600. We're like, okay, that makes sense. They'll sit there and they might cost a little bit more to run the conduit plus here and there, but we were generally around 2,600. It made perfect sense. That is not the price that we got, because every single time we try to schedule one of these guys and get them to do it, always problems. There was one guy who was demanding us to get the pole, and we're like, bro, we literally hired you to do this. Like, you should know where to get the poles, because we wouldn't be hiring you if we knew where to get it and how to do all this, so on and so forth. And there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of issues on it, until finally we found one place to do it. It was Viper Electric LLC. And here's the thing. I feel like we kind of got scammed, but they delivered everything that was promised, so it wasn't a scam. So when I say I feel like we got scammed, what I mean is I feel like we got absorbently overcharged. So what they had done is that they had brought in the new pole, they had set it up, they had put up a whole new outside breaker panel, connected it with the main lines and everything else. I ran the conduit underneath the house and so on and so forth. Well, the first time they didn't run a new conduit, which we paid for, and they didn't bury it 18 to 3 feet depending on county codes. They just kind of reused the old conduit and just ran it like that. We're like, no, it's supposed to be buried this amount, you're supposed to be using a new conduit, we paid for it. And they did go back out there. They did do it. They did rectify it. They also took the old electric box that 124 had bought, and we were like, where's our box? So they did bring that back. So they fulfilled everything like they were supposed to. Okay, good enough. After a couple of like redoes, which whatever. That's at least doable.
Yeah, we had to get on their case a few times.
Yeah. We also got them to do the electric because we were trying to get the power permit for 136. Because originally we were trying to get it to obviously rent it to the son of 134, and that fell through, obviously. But now we needed to get it so we could work on the home, testing electric, and remodeling it enough to be able to get it back in rentable condition. And so they were also supposed to do that one. Well, they charged us. This is the weird thing. So they charged us 4,300-ish for 136, but for 124 they charged us 10,000.
7,000.
I'm sorry, 7,000.
It was like 7,500 almost.
And what they did, the only difference that they did, because they put up a new pole at 124 and 136, they put up a brand new breaker box at 124 and 126, even though we had told them at 136 to use the breaker that was already there because it looked like a brand new breaker box and it looked exactly the same as the one they'd already put at 124. So we're like, okay, this should work.
Yeah, so basically what Vlad's trying to get to is that 124 was supposed to be a complete replacement. 136 was supposed to be a literal pole.
Yeah, a pole, slap the box on, run a conduit, call it a day.
Because the box that was at 136 was the same one that was pretty much throughout most of the park, and it was a much newer model. The one at 124 was noticeably old. There's only one of the one that's really old at the park, and so we understood a little bit why the county specifically required that one to be replaced. So when we were getting quoted for everything, and we were looking at what we were supposed to be getting done, the way they kind of broke down the quote made sense. We were only supposed to be getting a new pole and box and all the materials and stuff for 124, but then 136, like I said, we were only supposed to be getting a pole and then them take the box off the old pole, put it on the new pole,
run a new conduit, and then wires, whatever they need to do.
But then when we went out there, both new poles, both new boxes, one had our hard conduit and the other one had a rubber like cased, hose conduit, and we were like, why do we have two new boxes and two new poles and two very different prices?
Yeah, that's where we're saying that we feel like we were overcharged. They didn't scam us. Both of them got approved. So 124 got approved on the electric after they had finished their work and done what they were supposed to, and we finished what we needed to do. And 136 is not approved for electric, but it's not because of the pole, box, and conduit. It's because it doesn't have siding in one area, and they say it needs a deck on the third door, which technically it doesn't, but good luck ever trying to argue with county about stuff like that, because it already has 2 entries and exits. So whatever, but we'll sit there and we'll do that. We'll handle it. But yeah, we got charged 2 very different pricings, but it seems like the same work, the same materials, and the same things were done to both.
But we're talking almost double the price, because it went from 4,000 on one, 4,300 to 7,500. That's literally almost doubles, $3,200 more. So we're like, where is the 3,200? Where did that price come from?
Yeah, because the thing is, like, if you charge me the same either way, if you charge me the same both ways, right? So you charge me 4,000 for this one, 4,000 for this one, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
that's your pricing. That makes perfect sense. But the fact that there's such a discrepancy for seemingly the same exact thing being done is what's weird, and we never really got an answer. But the thing is, in business, this is what you always need to be careful of. You gotta be honorable. If you agreed to it and you said yes, and this is what you agreed to, even though you don't feel it's right or it doesn't make a lot of sense, if that's what you agreed to, that's what you gotta pay. So unfortunately, we bit the bullet on this one. We had to do financing on it.
For example, if they didn't come through on their end, then we don't have to follow through.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't pay.
What the problem is that everything we required them to get done, which was specifically county's requirements, they do it, county approves it, everything got done. And so now we're like, well, we can't back out of the deal. We've already inked the paperwork, basically. We got to pony up.
So yeah, we had to get financing on it, which the financing, luckily, the interest rate is meh.
It's like 13%.
Yeah.
12.9 or something.
We had to take the longest loan term, so that way we could still recuperate our money and still do all these other projects. We might pay it off early just to try to save ourselves on interest, but that'll be something we'll look at a later date. But as it sits right now, we're basically going to be eating $400-ish a month.
It's like $209, I think, for 3 years. I think the other one was $242 for 4 years. Comes out to like $450, I guess, maybe at best.
But I will say, in the future, what we're probably going to do is we're probably just going to install the pole itself by itself, either ourselves or hire a dude that literally can just bring this pole out and slap it down, because now we have 2 references of poles that are county approved. So we'll just measure those poles, make sure they're the right size. We'll sit there and we'll just get a dude to slap it in. and then we'll probably just hire some basic electrician to
Yep.
literally do the rest. Because I think that's where a lot of confusion and issues were, because this is the only company that could do it, and it just doesn't make sense to me why all these other guys were quoting us that 2,600 rate, and now we're stuck with almost 10 grand in electric costs. Actually more than 10 grand in electric costs, but it is what it is. A deal's a deal. They did fulfill their work, so they did do what they were supposed to. And at least if nothing else, they did have pretty spot on communication. It wasn't one of these things where we wouldn't hear from them in like 5 days, then they call back. It would relatively be within a day or two at most that we would get a response, and something would be done within about 3 days after that.
Yeah, so basically, we have a last resort pretty much. So if we ever run into this issue again, and we're on a deadline, we know we can utilize them if we need to. We know we're paying for it though. But if we're not on a deadline, because we were kind of on a deadline here because we were trying to get our new employee to get into the home, and we were trying to make sure we facilitated our agreement. So we were a little bit on a rush on that one. But if we're not in a rush, then like Vlad's saying, we can take our sweet time finding another electrician. If they require us to put a pole in, we can figure all that out. Completely save a lot more money and a lot less headache. Versus if we got like a month to get electric on for something and we can't get some other electrician out there within a week or two, we'll have to call these guys and go do it, and we'll know they'll come through.
So anyway, and I will say in the future, oh yeah, we're not doing this 7 grand pricing or anything else. Like we'd be like, dude, you guys literally did this one for this price.
Yep.
I'm willing to pay you this price to do the exact same thing you did over there, and leave it at that. All right. So now the big one, the big talking point, and we're already kind of running long, so I guess I'm going to shorten this one up. We're in construction mode 2.0, as we've mentioned in the previous video. So you remember a year ago, actually, yeah, exactly a year ago, we had evicted 108. We had saw the condition of the house. This was our pride and joy, the gem, the creme de la creme of our mobile home park. And it was in complete and utter disrepair and just totally like awful. So Derek and I decided to do a full remodel of the unit. We ripped everything out. We redid the flooring. We picked out broken window pieces. We replaced windows in certain areas. We turned around and we put in new flooring. We fixed all the bathroom issues that were happening. We went above and beyond remodeling the entire property.
Got the air conditioning fixed.
Yeah, got the AC fixed. We did everything. Yeah. Now that unit has been very good to us. It's been producing 1,300 every single month, so it was well worth our time and effort. The reason I'm calling this construction 2.0 is because that took us about 2.5 months to do. We have now committed to doing 6 months of construction work between multiple different units. So obviously we were doing the construction work down at 124 to get him into a livable state. And I would say that house is now 80% functional. We still have internal electrical stuff that we need to do.
And then some cosmetic.
Yeah, and then some cosmetic stuff. But overall, he has been able to move into the house. He has AC window units and stuff like that. Like the house is livable.
The plumbing is fully done, right?
Yes, plumbing is fully done. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but basically
the roof leaks. We redid all that. So pretty much all the external stuff. In fact, everything on the external stuff is done. It's all just a minor amount of internal things. So yeah, it's about 80-85% done.
So then what we sat there and what we did, we were going to be working on 136. Now that we're evicting 134, we're considering on how to do 134 and potentially remodel it. But the thing is that what we're trying to figure out is a way to just send 124 to go do it under our supervision or something like that, so he can learn. So we're basically trying to create a situation where both of those units are his experimental playground, using our money and materials and stuff like that, obviously paying him for it as well. We have a tiny home, if you guys remember the shit shack. We've been remodeling it. It is very close to being done. If I have some pictures here, I'll throw them up now. So if you guys remember, the building was basically snapped in two. All the joists were foobar in it. It didn't have a roof or anything else like that. We've got everything up on the end. We're putting up the siding on it now, so it has all the boards surrounding it. We moved the door. We're working on the interior. We're framing out the bathroom and the loft. We're doing pretty much everything, and we've decided that particular unit, we're gonna put it up as an Airbnb and go from there. We might consider selling it. for a higher price. But right now we're looking to Airbnb it out, and that's kind of how we're going with it. The other thing that we're going to be working on, obviously, is golf course house. We got to work on that as well. And during this entire period, we're also trying to train 124 so that way he can be competent in it. But basically, following up, probably from this point on, our videos are going to be very short, to the point, and they're going to be late because we're working. We are now having to do the thing that we hate doing. We're having to go out there. We're having to work on it ourselves. Because the thing is that we can't just send him out there to do it, because that's just a recipe for disaster, because he's not trained to do it. So we're having to train him and work it ourselves. And the reason we're also believing it's going to take 6 months, if Derek and I were just doing it, I'd probably say it'd be about 4.5 months to 5 months.
Yeah.
6 months is because of the training, because we have to dramatically slow down to let him do it, because construction is a lot of hands-on stuff. If you're not doing it, you're not learning it. It's good to watch someone physically in front of you do it, but you also got to get your hands dirty with it and stuff like that as well. So that's kind of where we're at on it, and this is why I'm saying it's construction 2.0, because at this point it's our life. Now, that pretty much wraps up my synopsis of construction 2.0. What do you have to add to that?
That's pretty much it. Basically, like you said, we have a bunch of projects we're doing, so we're kind of tackling them one at a time. Like he said, we've gotten the vast majority of 124 already done. That was the first one. We're pretty much about a week and a half to 2 weeks away from being done with the tiny home. We're moving straight into the golf course house after that, and then eventually we'll get around to, depending on order of events, either 136 or 134. And then we have a couple other little minor things we got to do on the side. We have another little portfolio we got to work on, plus personal things we got to do for our individual homes. So yeah, we have a pretty steady streamline of stuff we got to get done. And then we're hoping, as we continue to do each project, 124 will be getting a little bit more independent or capable, or at least some of the things that we can do separate from him. If we do have to oversee him, we don't have to be there sitting there just watching him. So an example, if we're doing plumbing, right, and he's competent enough in plumbing, we can be in the same home doing, I don't know, framing or flooring or something like that, and then we can go back and check on him every so often, make sure it's doing, it's getting done correctly enough, without having to literally physically sit there and be like, well, this is what you need to do, or what do you think you got to do here? And then you have a person completely taken off the job because they're just supervising, basically.
Yep.
So we're hoping, because that's kind of what we're doing now to an extent. We're really, really, really slow on a couple things, because there's some areas that he has absolutely no experience in. Some he has a little bit of experience. Some he has absolutely none in. So we're having to start from scratch like a child learning how the alphabet for the first time. Some things are way slower than others. So I'm saying, basically, we're hoping, as we progress through each project, he will progress with it, and so the projects will soon get faster and faster and faster, because he's getting more and more and more competent, and we can utilize his services more, and then eventually it'll be a point where we're not working and he is.
Yep.
And so then we're hoping, best case scenario, by the end of the year, so that way, for example, if we have another massive water leak that happens at the park, he already lives there, so he's local, and he knows how to do the plumbing, so we don't have to deal with it. So that would give us peace of mind for the winter. Plus, it gives him work. And then other things too, like obviously we buy properties. Not always are they in perfect condition, so we now have somebody on hand to constantly do the remodels and repairs. Or things like, for example, 13 Hammet, where we just talked about how they already have a hole in one wall and a door. Whenever we need to get that done, we don't have to physically go out of our way to do it. Send him down there for a day and we get it knocked out. In fact, he already did do a minor repair at 18 Eagles View, the place that we were supposed to be putting in all new actual floors. So
until the family stole them.
Till they stole them. Well, because it's basically just subfloor that's exposed, and the lady's been walking on a combination of carpet, subfloor, and some padding for certain areas. It's mostly carpet and flooring through the vast majority of the house. There's one particular room that she uses as storage that is basically just exposed subfloor, and the weight of the floor and the weight of the furniture and stuff's been wearing out on the floor. So he had to go in there And this is after we've already pretty much worked him at 2 properties, being 124 and the tiny home, with flooring itself, plus my personal home at one point. So he's gotten pretty competent at that. So we sent him alone to go do it. And it looks like he did a pretty good job without us having to ever go back and supervise him. So we know he can at least put in subfloor now independently of us. So that's kind of what we're talking about, is that say somebody else's subfloor pops up down the road that's an issue, like they're getting weak floors or there's a hole in it or something, we know that we can send him there, and then whenever he's done with that, we can have him come back and continue to teach him on something else. That's what we're talking about. So yeah, it's a little bit of hopping around here and there for some things, but for the most part, the point is he's eventually going to fully replace us, and we're hoping it'll be very soon.
Yep. So yeah, that's the hope, the dream, a competent contractor. Oh God, the hope and dream.
Yeah, so we pretty much gave up on getting other competent contractors because
the other problem is too, I want to say, if you guys remember the deal again, we're offering free housing, we're offering pay, we're literally like, there's even a clause in there where on tiny home remodels, we're even offering commission.
Yeah, so
the total sale price.
He gets a set base rate. He's getting paid to get trained, which is already great. He's not like an intern. He's free. Mm-hmm. He's getting paid to get trained right out the gate. He's pretty much guaranteed full time once he's competent. So really, it's a him thing. If he learns it all over tomorrow, then technically he can go full time. The thing is, it's taking him time to learn. So anyway, so he's got a guaranteed training rate. He's already got himself a guaranteed full time option. Like he just mentioned, he gets commission on tiny home sales. His house is also considered commission. So if we wanted selling his individual home, not only are we always required to provide him housing, so he's never going to be homeless in any way. We have to put him in a house somewhere. But even if we do sell his house, he gets a cut of that sale.
Hell, we're not even required to just provide housing. I've made it very generous. We're required to provide him the same level or better housing. So he's currently in a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. That's about 800 square feet. We can't provide him a 1-1. We have to literally provide him a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, minimum 800 square feet or better at all times.
So yeah,
it's a generous contract.
Pretty good setup right now. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, as far as the last couple of months, like Vlad mentioned, we're probably gonna be consistently later and later and later with each video, because
I'm not gonna make it.
We just started the construction projects, and we were already running behind with all the stuff we were doing, because we have other things going on too. We have lawsuits constantly. We just did an eviction. We have another lawsuit we still got to follow up with. We have other properties that we're still dealing with, once again, trying to get rentals, deal with people with paperwork, constantly chasing people down for money. Like, we have other things we got to deal with, plus on top of the construction.
Dude, it's been like working 2 full-time jobs, and honestly, I'm not going to make it. This is, things are falling through the cracks again. This is why Derek and I hate the construction stuff. If we had somebody, first of all, we hate doing construction anyway for 2 reasons I'll get into. But if we just had somebody that was competent to literally manage our entire portfolio, and when I say our entire portfolio, I mean all of it. The lawsuits, the non-payment issues, scheduling out payments, the advertising, the sale of properties, like what's a good deal, what's a bad deal. And Derek and I could just blanket all of it out and just go work on construction. It wouldn't be as bad, but it's still not preferable.
Because then we can also just be focusing on one thing and not having to constantly get distracted and pulled off of it. We can also be a lot more leisurely with it because we understand that everything else is being taken care of, and we're not like always in rush because we got to get back to something else.
And that's the thing that kind of kills us with it, is because the second reason that I hate doing construction is that I actually love doing construction when I am the beneficiary of that construction. What I mean by this is that I love redoing my own home. I love putting in the flooring in my own home. I would love to sit there and build out my own deck for my enjoyment and use. I have no problem with that. Our issue is that Derek and I put in all this time and effort into this, knowing
there's no hour. This is a Vlad issue.
No, anyway. We put in, I put in all this time and effort into this, knowing that some dipshit is going to come in there, not care, probably mess up the walls, sit there and scuff things up, hit the crown and shoe molding, like not pay attention to what they're doing, turn around and let water leaks go for way longer than they ever should, so on and so forth, to basically ruin all the work that was put in. If it gets normal wear and tear, like obviously after like 10 years of people going back and forth, the floors get scuffed up, like some of the walls have like a couple of scuff marks and stuff like that on them. Some of the shoe molding have been accidentally like kicked, or maybe like a dog had like ran over to it or whatnot. That's fine. Like I don't have a problem with that, because like anything in life, it's gonna wear and tear and fade. That's just the reality of life. Nothing lasts forever. My issue is that that's not what happens most of the time, until you're up in the super high class, super echelon like of rentals where you could charge like $2,000 a month. Yeah, those people will take care of that home. You don't have to worry about that one bit. However, on the lower end and these remodels that we're doing, it tears me apart, man. My tiny home, prime example, my first tenant that I had in there. Again, I did all this loving care and work, like super dick effort, like really put in the time, got everything exactly the way I wanted, within reason, without ripping out everything, and I was still under budget. My first tenant sat there and I told them to please let me know if they want to mount a TV. Let me do it. I know where the studs are. Did they do that? No. And I live right beside them. They could have came and gotten me at any moment. I would have installed the TV. Instead, what they did is they made drill holes about 16 times going up and down the wall, scuffed the walls and the paint, trying to get the mounting bracket on, just for them to turn around and leave 2 weeks later. This is the stuff that drives me personally insane. They also messed up a little bit of the crown molding, because the way I guess they put the TV in, they sat there and they chipped it off. And it's minor stuff like that, but that's all damage that could have been avoided, but people don't do that. And that's always my issue with these, but technically they still consider normal wear and tear. It's just excessive normal wear and tear to me. But that's my issue with it personally, is that I'm doing all this work and I'm never going to be the one to actually enjoy it. Except for the money. I will say that, yeah. That's the only part of it I get to enjoy.
That's the part that he gets a little salty about, is that he doesn't get to enjoy it, but you do get to enjoy it. You get the fun.
That's Derek's argument for everything. Anyway, that's all I gotta say on that. I guess if you're ready, we can move on to the budget. I'm gonna sit here silently.
All right, so budget is also including May as well, because as we mentioned, we didn't really get a chance to get to May. So I'm gonna kind of shoot through most of this. Basically, I mean, outside of the most recent problems with, like we just mentioned, 134. Everything has been fairly consistent. Most people have been kind of, if they are paying, they're catching up from a previous payment, because people have been on and off late, which it happens. I mean, once taxes kind of run through, people then are like, oh, we suddenly don't have the money again, and now they're always playing behind and catch up. So overall, we'll go with all of May, and then we'll switch over to all of June. Now, understand too, there is some other things we got to factor into this, because we did make some multiple purchases of properties, as well as we're doing new material costs and things, and we have an employee. So our budget is dramatically different now than it was just the last year, pretty much. So get into May. So in May, 104, 108, 116, 118, 120, 122, 126, 130, 946 John Hart, 641 Barnwell, 18 Eagles View, and 13 Hammet all paid. Okay, that was, to remind you, 13 Hammet was the month that they were getting into it, so they paid us $1,000 for that first month. That was all the ones that did pay, so everything is completely normal in their budget. The only one that didn't pay, for the most part, was pretty much just, look here, it should have been 124, because that was when we switched them over to the employment contract. So now we're covering that bill. So with that all being said, our total income for that month, this is revenue, is $7,455. Now we have our debts, which once again, they're a little low because we just started buying materials. So now it's going to be ramping up each month after. Plus we have Electrician that we just talked about. That bill's going to be coming in starting now this month. So in the next, each subsequent month, the debt is going to continue to go up as we pay it off.
See, the issue was in March, net 2,400. April, net 2,300. We saw the downward trajectory. And our CFO just decided,
let's go even further beyond.
Let's just go ahead and put it where it needs to go.
It's already going
That's
down.
exactly what he did.
The cliff. So here's where we are with the debts. So Divvy was a small bill, didn't do anything. 379.41. We have, once again, starting our material cost. Amazon is 250. This is when we were working and starting to work on, or in preparation of working on 124 to get that moved in. So anyhow, so then we have the Apple Card, which is some of the other debts that was with it. That's $1,895. Then we have our lot rent, which our lot rent is now increasing because now we're not paying just 18 Eagles for 200. We're also paying the $300 for the lot rent of 13 Hammet. So now our new lot rent totals is $500. Standard $1,953 for the mortgage. Didn't pay any taxes or anything this time. As we mentioned before, we'll get to the property taxes in August. And then following up with that, we now have the new cost, which is going to be a reoccurring cost, which is our employee. We have a pretty big one for this first month because we had to pay the $2,500 for
the sign-on bonus and buyback.
Yeah, buyback. Plus, we also told them that when we were getting into this employment contract that we were the ones that had to provide them housing. We're required to provide all the materials to get that housing up to code, basically, so they could live in it. So all the materials that they were buying at the point of employment to get it up and running, we also had to reimburse them on all that, plus their labor for any of the other work they had done. So the total bill that came up that first month was $2,672. Then on top of that, so we'll just go ahead and we'll put the total debt on that one is $7,649.41. So all in all, our net would have been, but is kind of it's negative $194.41.
But Derek, oh no, he was like, we can go deeper.
So remember, that is if it was just a standard month-to-month, regular, nothing dramatic popping up or doing anything outside of the norm, because these are all just your reoccurring incomes and expenses. However, you got to remember, we bought 13 Hammet and we had to pay that money out of pocket. So we've spent $16,500, which puts us technically at a negative of $16,694.40 for all of May. Pretty good. But wait, there's more. So now, let's get into June. So, June, once again, for the most part, people are paying. We got a couple people paying behind. July right now, we have a couple people really behind, but everybody's been paying late. We get some late fees here and there and some stuff. So, in 104, remember, we did go up on their price because they have this kind of quasi power of attorney caretaker style of agreement where we have
dogs. They have dogs.
Anyways, they have a person who's coming in to help take care of the tenants that are there because of poor health and whatnot. So their bill went up from $485 to $640, and the person that is handling their affairs now, last month there was a bunch of things going back and forth for them to be able to get into the home and whatnot, and so they fell behind on basically the first month getting back into it to actually live there. So they just recently paid the bill to catch up for June. They didn't pay the full payment. They did pay a decent amount of it though. So remember, it's supposed to be $640. Technically, if we charge a late fee on top, it would be $740. So far, they paid $580 of it. So if you're looking at the base amount that we would normally get, we're only $60 shy of a full payment. It did come about 3.5 weeks late, but it is what it is. So we did get that payment. So that is our new, going to be increased income for 104. It's supposed to be that $640 amount. So then we have, as always, I'll go through all the people who did pay. We have 108, 116, 118, 120, 122, 126, 946, 641, and that's it. The ones who did not pay, as usual, 124 does not pay anymore. 130 is now a month behind. They're also currently behind for July, but we'll get to that in July. But they did not pay for June. And then we also already have not gotten payment for 13 Hammet. So we've only gotten right out the gate, like you mentioned before, first come, first serve. We have a problematic tenant. We got 1 month in and already no income.
Then because of the drug paraphernalia and everything else like that,
Yeah.
immediate 5 days. The second they were 5 days late, filed the eviction, and now it's finally finalized.
So remember, supposedly they're supposed to be paying today, but I haven't seen the payment come in yet.
Yeah.
So we're assuming it's not coming. So with that being said, the total income for all of June has gone down a decent amount. It went from, remind you of May, where pretty much everybody paid $7,455 to where in June we're only at $6,080. That's 1,400 almost completely out the gate. That's a pretty substantial chunk. And then on top of that, now, like I said, our debts are starting to go up because now our costs that we were buying in May are coming due in June. And then once again, things we're buying in June are going to be coming due in July. So our debts, once again, are going up. So let's go into those debts. So our divvy bill went up. It's $578.39. The Amazon bill went up. It's now $500, roughly consistently. The Apple bill actually went down.
The Apple bill is just whatever we
Yeah.
had to buy that month.
Pretty much.
That's basically how you look at the Apple bill.
And so it's $558. Then we have the lot rent, which is consistent $500. And then we have the mortgage, which is $1953. Now, pretty much the money that would normally be on the Apple card is kind of on the Sam's Club card because of that massive water bill that we had. So that we only paid half. We're going to eat a little bit of interest on it, so that way we have made sure we have room in the budget to continue to work on and getting materials and things for other bills that we have. So the Sam's Club bill was $1,880. Remember, it was about a $3,500 bill. Plus, we put a couple purchases on it, so we just did half that bill, paid it, and so we're gonna have like did the math. It was like $32 in interest for the next month. The next month will be like almost $1,900 exactly. So anyhow, so with that being said, grand total of the debts, we also had to pay our new employee. This is his actual work hours that he consistently. Remember, we didn't have any real reimbursements on this one. Now he's just we're working him, and we've been working him consistently between 2 and 3 days a week. 1 week in particular, he worked 4, and so long story on that one. He's working more than we had initially planned for, which is okay, I guess. It's fine. We have it in the budget, but generally speaking, the budget should fluctuate heavily depending on where we're at and what we're doing with him. So right now it's $755.50 for a grand total of debts of this month, $6,724.89. So the actual debt went down. However,
Billy Mays here with another fantastic. Actually, no, the debt went up because we were negative 194.
No. The debt went down.
Oh.
But because we brought in substantially less income, our net negative is higher. So our net for June is negative $644.89. So as I just mentioned, less income, less debt, but the income was lost more than the debt. So once again, that's not completely accurate because we made another purchase. We had to close on the purchase price for the golf course house. And we factored all of that in June, even though technically we paid some here and there for certain other times, like the title search and some various other costs. But we just put it all in this 1 month so we can keep track of it easier. So that grand total bill was $9,570.07. So, or 70 cents, I mean. So that means that if you add in that price plus the negative that we had net for the month, we now have a grand total net negative of $10,215.60, which puts us at a pretty hot margin right now of, in the last 2 months, of about a negative almost exactly $27,000.
I'm gonna have to go on OnlyFans. That's the plan.
Yeah, looking pretty good. What do you think? Good looking budget.
Feet pics are $5.
And the best part is, it's gonna continue to go down, baby.
Yeah,
it'll cover it.
it'll start stabilizing itself eventually, but that's also why we're gonna have a meeting as soon as we're done with this. Because the thing is that like our individual portfolios. We're again funding everything with our individual portfolios to do this. The deals were too good to pass up, and at the same time too, we have personal life events and whatnot that we're wanting to hold off on. I don't want to say anything publicly yet. Mainly dealing with me, that we're trying to meet a certain deadline. So the thing is that it will stabilize, but we are having to fund it externally from our outside personal portfolio. So we're once again giving more money to Metra, but it actually makes perfect sense. We're not giving it to Metra because the expenses are too high. That's just lost income. We're giving it to Metra, literally invest even harder into it because we saw great opportunities, so we wanted to take advantage of it. So that's kind of where we're sitting at. So the thing is that, yeah, the company itself truly is negative that money. Technically, we are negative that money because these are two non-performing assets right now. But it'll eventually stabilize out because our investments, if you want to look at it this way, is the remodel of the tiny house, the employment cost. That is an investment because we're investing heavily into him to perform and hoping that we can get him to where we want so we never have to do this again. The investment of golf course house and the investment of 13 Hamlet. So those are 4 new investments that him and I approved and decided to fund more money into because the long-term benefit of those investments are going to far outweigh the current negatives of it. However, man still needs money to eat, and I still say the CFO done fooked us. You went too far.
I ain't go far enough. I'm going to go even further beyond. We almost had another deal that we landed, but unfortunately didn't quite follow through, and that would have been another roughly $7,000 in the
Actually,
drain.
I want to talk about this. Okay, so let me explain something to you guys in real estate. First of all, don't you dare ever, I don't care how cheap it is, ever pay someone directly for a real estate property. Ever. Unless they are literally selling you the business, if it's in a business name or in a trust and they're selling you the trust directly. And even still, I'd still recommend attorney notarization and stuff like that. Any real estate deal that you ever do, you must always either go through an attorney or a title company, depending on your state. And you must always make sure that all the transfer paperwork is finalized by a third party. And typically you also want it insured as well, if possible. And even with like mortgage and notes and stuff like that, absolutely not. Still, the mortgage and notes, you have to go through an attorney. Don't trust a title company to do that stuff. Go through an attorney, make sure they do it right, make sure it's all set up correctly. Basically what happened was we found a property. The person was asking $7,000. We negotiated down to $6,000.
No, they were asking 8. We asked them, we counted 6, and then we settled on 7.
Okay, so 7. This would be an owner finance property. Absolutely. It's down in Calhoun Falls, not dealing with it. Too much work. I mean, it was okay. Just too much work for us with all the projects we had to do. It just would have been some quick, easy income. So we reached out to the person, didn't hear anything from them for a week. Then they reached back out saying like, good news, like this other person is saying like, we're good to move forward on it. We can go ahead and meet up, exchange money, and then go from there. We're like, okay, first of all, you said you were the owner. Now you're saying there's another person involved. So then they clarified, like, basically they're doing some weird quasi wholesale deal, but they're stating that the property's in their name, which red flags. They were wanting us to meet up with them, literally give them money for the property. Then they would just give us, I guess, piece of paper that sat there and said like, we own the property now. Or they basically want us to go ahead and pay them directly for the purchase and sale of the property without ever going through an attorney or whatnot, which technically can be done. It would be considered a quick claim. You are absolutely dumb for ever doing that with somebody that's not reputable and is claiming to just be a one-off owner. So like red flags were popping off everywhere. We told them, no, this is how it works. This is how real estate transactions go. This is how you do. This is how you do it. So they said, oh, that's not going to work. It's going to take too long. We're like, well, sorry, this is how we're doing it, or we're not doing it at all. So let us know what you'd like to do. Haven't heard anything since. So
we're not doing it at all.
Yeah, so we're not doing it at all. So it was either a scam or somebody that was really dumb. Not sure which. When I say dumb, I don't mean this in an insulting way.
Like
I mean this more like ignorant. Like they just don't know the process.
Yep.
It's one or two. It's either a scam or somebody who's very ignorant. Don't care. Not my problem. I got too much other things going on. I can't deal with explaining to dum-dums how this works. When that property sits there for probably another 6 months, we'll offer them $5,000 this time around because it's in worse condition, more damage, whatever we want to argue. And then we're doing it right and then going from there if they want to take that or not. Otherwise, it's just going to keep sitting there. So that's the thing. Once again, absolutely do not give anybody the full amount of the money ever. The most you can ever give somebody safely, and I wouldn't really worry about this, is the earnest on the contract. Nothing more. And everything else goes through an attorney. If you want to be super secure, super safe, the couple $1,000s that you'll pay for it is well worth it. All right, cool. That's it. That's my TED talk on how not to get scammed.
And that's also pretty much our talk on this video. You have anything else you want to really put in there?
No, I want to go home.
All right, well, that is the monthly update for this month. Pretty much you're going to see standard fare for the next month. Not really going to be much other than we'll just keep showing you progress photos for each thing that we do. If any new dramatic thing pops up. We'll
if we remember, don't hold us to that. New progress photos every 6 seconds.
That's right. So anyhow, with that being said, I mean, that's pretty much it. Expect the budget to go nosediving for a while, and then, yeah, things will turn around eventually. So we'll get to that.
Yep, sounds good.
We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Peace.